are always full of old clothes, but I don't find any that look like the ones in these pictures. I guess they would be too old. They were the kind of clothes worn by some of the very first people who tried to make their homes in our country, to settle in the New World. They look pretty fancy, don't they, to wear in a wild country where there were no houses or roads, only trees and wild animals and Indians. Now, the Englishmen who wore clothes such as these landed in a part of our country we call Virginia in the year 1607. They started a settlement or town called Jamestown. Of course, long before these Englishmen came to our shores, Indians had lived in our country for thousands of years. That makes them the real natives or first people of our land. These first Americans didn't call themselves Indians. That was a name given to them by Columbus, who guessed that they were people from the land of India. Now, we can learn something about what our country was like way back in 1607 from a story about an Indian girl who was living in Virginia at the time that the English settlers arrived. Her name was Pocahontas. The wild geese flew across the sky. An 11-year-old Indian girl watched them. She wondered where the geese came from and where they were going. When she could see them no longer, she hurried to the house of her father. Their house was a long house made of bark.
It's the time of the geese. I saw them as they flew south.
And her father, Powhatan, chief of many Indian tribes, answered her,
"It is time we hunt. It is time to catch the bear and to kill the deer."
Through the winter, the braves of the Powhatan tribes hunted in the forest. Pocahontas stayed in the village with the women. From morning to night, they were busy. They made strong rope from the grass that grew by the river. With this, they made fish nets. They ground corn. With this, they made bread. They worked and they waited for their hunters. At last, the winter was over and the hunters were home to stay. Spring had come. And one day in spring, a crowd came shouting for the Powhatan. They had seen big wooden birds on the sea. The birds carried men, and these men came upon the land. The strangers killed rabbit and bear. The strangers fished in Indian rivers. There was no smile on the face of the great chief.
There is game enough for all for a little while. There are those in our tribes who remember other strangers who came over the sea. They were strangers who came as friends and who stayed to kill. We too can be friends or enemies. We will wait and see which it will be.
Pocahontas went to watch the strangers in the new settlement called Jamestown. She ran through the forest. She was as quiet as a rabbit. She was almost as fast as a deer. She hid in the tall grass. These were pale strangers who had come upon her land. Some of the men cut down trees. Other men were building high walls. Inside those walls, some were building small houses. When the men talked together, their words were stranger than any Pocahontas had ever heard. For a long time she watched, and she liked what she saw. Pocahontas ran back through the forest and told her brother what she had seen. But he told her he thought the white man had chosen bad land by the slow river. They would not find good water or animals for food. Then one day, a brave came running to the house of the Powhatan. He had news that the white settler called John Smith had been caught. The chief told the brave to bring this John Smith before him. When John Smith faced the mighty Powhatan, he tried to explain that he came as a friend, that he wanted only to trade for corn. He talked on and on. Many times he made the sign of friendship with his hand upon his heart. Pocahontas saw that her father did not believe this sign of friendship.
Let him die!
Pocahontas begged that he not be killed, and her father listened. John Smith was allowed to go back to Jamestown. One day, when Pocahontas went to visit Jamestown, she saw that there had been a fire. Many houses had been burned, and the white men were busy building again. From her own village the next afternoon, 20 young braves started for Jamestown. Each carried 2 turkeys. Oh, Pocahontas was pleased.
They go to help the strangers. This is good.
Late that night, only 13 men came back, and each still carried 2 turkeys. Yes, the men at Jamestown had been hungry, but they would not trade guns for turkeys. The Powhatan asked,
"And what of the 7 men who did not come back?"
He was told that the 7 braves had gone back to take the guns they could not get in trade, and they had been caught. Pocahontas listened, and then she spoke.
Father, let me go to Jamestown. They will give our braves to me.
Pocahontas led the 13 braves through the forest. They carried food for the settlers. When they reached the fort, Pocahontas spoke.
We have come with food. This we give to you. You have 7 of our men. My father asked that you give them to me.
Pocahontas led all 20 of the braves back through the forest. The moon grew big and thin again before the settlers from Jamestown came to trade at the Indian village. Then one day a big ship came up the James River. Captain John Smith and a Captain Newport came on land. A boy was with them. Oh, Pocahontas followed them to her father's house. Captain Newport spoke first.
I bring a present to you. I give you this boy.
He gave the boy, Thomas Savage, a push. Pocahontas could see that Thomas was afraid. Her father was pleased and said,
"I give you my son. It is well that each learn the language of the other."
When the ship went back down the river, Pocahontas's brother was on it. Thomas Savage stayed in the Indian village. Pocahontas looked at him curiously. He was a boy who had seen about as many summers as she. How many she could only guess. 13, maybe? Thomas learned many words of the Powhatan language. In turn, Pocahontas learned many words of English. When Captain Smith came again to her village, Pocahontas knew much of what he said. Spring came, and another summer. Then it was fall, and again the wild geese flew south. Word came that Pocahontas's brother had been lost at sea. Pocahontas told Thomas,
You will have to stay with us always. My brother can never come back. You will take his place. It will be better here, for men will soon be hungry in Jamestown.
When Thomas wondered why she said this, Pocahontas answered,
There are too many men and not enough food there.
Still, Thomas Savage did not stay in the Indian village, and as Pocahontas knew it would be, men went hungry in Jamestown. Many died. Still others, including John Smith, sailed back to England. Of the few that had come, there were only a few left. 4 times the wild geese flew to the south. 4 winters passed. Ships sailed to England and brought back new settlers to Jamestown. One day, Pocahontas visited the house of an Indian named Japazaws. And while she was there, a beautiful ship came up the river. Japazaw's wife wanted to see the ship, but she was afraid to visit it alone. Pocahontas said,
I'll go. I'm not afraid at all.
And so, Japazaws and his wife and Pocahontas went on the ship. When the ship moved down the river again, Pocahontas was still on it. Quickly she looked for Japazaws and his wife. They were gone. Then she saw them standing on the land, and she saw that Japazaw's wife had a copper kettle under her arm. Just then the captain of the ship came up.
You will stay with us, Pocahontas. Your father must give back men and guns which he took from us. We will keep you until he does this. You will stay in Jamestown.
Pocahontas was a prisoner. She had been given to the English for a copper kettle. Oh, Pocahontas knew Jamestown and the people in it too well to be afraid, and she enjoyed meeting the many new settlers who were there now. Pocahontas liked the way of the English. Oh, to a curious girl of the forest, there were strange and wonderful things. There were windows of glass to let in the sun. There were bayberry candles to light the night. A long time went by before the Powhatan sent back 7 men and 7 guns. And he also sent word that Pocahontas was to be returned to him. But by that time, Pocahontas did not want to leave Jamestown. She liked the people, she knew their language, and a young settler by the name of John Rolfe had asked her to be his wife. There was a wedding in the little church in Jamestown. Because of this wedding, there was friendship between the Powhatan tribes and the people of Jamestown. When John Rolfe made a trip to England, he took his wife. Many people of the Powhatan tribes also went with them, and in London people were curious to see Pocahontas and the braves of her tribe. English and Powhatans looked and wondered at the ways of the other. But as time went on, many of the braves became ill. Pocahontas said,
My people cannot live long in a city. They must be free to follow the deer path in the forest.
Many of the braves died. Then Pocahontas herself became ill. She knew she must go back to her own land. John Rolfe and Pocahontas started for home, but Pocahontas would never see the land of her father again. Before the ship set sail, she lay dead. In Jamestown and in every Powhatan village, people mourned for Pocahontas. Yes, she would always be remembered. And that was the story of Pocahontas by Patricia Miles Martin. I hope that if you ever get a chance, you will visit Jamestown in Virginia. You can walk through a copy of the old James Fort. You'll see statues of some of the early settlers, people that we heard about in our story today. Part of a ruined church and some old brick walls still stand to tell us about this town that was started over 350 years ago. Oh, we have so much to learn about our country. I'm anxious for you to come back to my attic, and we'll share another story about America's past. I'll see you then. Goodbye.
The preceding program was made possible by a grant from the Ohio Department of Education.